Hello, this is Paloma. I come back with the story the sky is telling for the next few days. Thanks for tuning in, beautiful family. How are we? This is my fourth maybe attempt to doing this video. So I'm going to start with this. I imagine perhaps you noticed at the moment we have both Mercury and Mars retrograde. And this requires us to be aware, to be present in the present moment, present in our lives, Because I know life will not stop, especially in December. But it is us really who have chosen to live with calendars and routines that are off sync with the sky and the earth. So I'm not really talking about not doing not doing what we ought to do during these processes, but it's remembering that the energy movement has changed direction and it's in a more reflective, introspective mode. And this, therefore, could cause us to have a lack of attention to the details in the outside or the daily life. So let's just be more intentional with our presence and also patient with the rhythms. I think I've been mentioning that we are now working with extremely mutable energy, which is to our advantage because it allows us to be more flexible, to play with humor, with hope, and to flow with change. And I would say this is a key thing to incorporate into our lives, into our way of navigating daily, considering we are in a time that will not give us truce in terms of change. Okay, Mercury has gone past the middle point of his retrograde motion, and this week I think there's actually a build-up into clarity, an exaltation of information, messages, conversations, data. I think some valuable data could come into our lives, something we needed to hear, to see, to understand, having an insight. I wouldn't say throughout the week we're in the final decisions, maybe towards the full moon next week, next Sunday. But I think we will gather and ponder information, maybe precisely so we can change our minds while gathering all of this information. I would insist, though, that the final answer and truth will not come from the outside, because this is what we're doing. We are strengthening our connection to our inner guidance, inner compass, to the voice of the master inside of you. And it's quite easy to get distracted with this energy as well. Without knowing this, we could be giving away our power even to a spiritual tool or resource or self-development one. And these are precious resources, I am aware, but there is a subtle difference when we approach them by giving up our own authority versus when we do it from our empowerment and authority, and then they become tools that accompany us in this evolutionary stage. This is going to become so important once the axis node shifts into Virgo Pisces in January, and with all the exaltation of Neptunian energy that we have at the moment and will have throughout 2025. So Neptune just stationed direct this last Saturday. His energy seems to me super powerful. You will let me know. I'm sure you've had interesting dreams and heightened sensibility and intuition. Sometimes I hear astrologers say he's like a very subtle influence. I sort of disagree. I think he's quite amplified right now. And he's going to be the ruler of the evolutionary path through the North Node in Pisces. He is going to step in the 0 degree of Aries for the first time in 2025. He is the leader of this triangle of talents of the transpersonal planets. I mean, he's the director of the orchestra, he's the master of the opera world, and he's calling us into a much more embodied, coherent spirituality, calling us into integrity. So when he shifts direction, the veils fall. Sorry. So we might be awakening from some spells, some illusions, some fantasies. This actually opens us up into a much more real possibility of creation. But we probably have to go through disillusionment for this. But we will then be more attuned with our souls and with the prayer of unity that Pisces holds. Okay, so I've already elaborated about Mars retrograde last week, but I do want to say he's not Mercury, but he's a personal planet. He rules over our bodies, our actions, our will, our active expression of desire and sexual energy. He's sacred masculine. His process is not a short process, it's a considerable one. He hasn't truly moved out of the opposition to Pluto, and this is a signature of this transit. And it's one of healing, of updating, of reigniting the passion that moves us, that set us in motion. So retrogrades are about looking inwards, about inquiring, questioning. And this is what actually allows change and evolution. So I would say it's quite natural if at the moment you are questioning your way of acting, or maybe inquiring into what truly motivates or ignites you right now, how connected you feel to your creative strength or force and to your will. And this will also probably require us to go into some wounds in terms of self-confidence, trust, self-value. This is a calling to return to the heart of our lives, and he's in Leo right now. This axis, Leo Aquarius, is quite active at the moment. This is an axis that speaks to authenticity, creativity, expression of the self into the whole and the whole into the one. It's like the connection to your shine, to your brilliance, and the expression of your frequency is what actually gives strength to the collective, and how the collective gives you strength by receiving and celebrating your authenticity. This is also an axis of encounter through creative energy. So Venus just entered Aquarius, and by the door of the new era met with Pluto. There was Ceres asteroid there as well. I think Pluto is presenting his transformative agenda at the moment and initiating Venus. So bringing this transformative agenda into the space of relationships, values, creativity, beauty, love, imbued but with the frequency of change, the future, disruption of the pattern towards the possibility of evolution. And Ceres asteroid is asking or inviting us to nurture the prayer for the future into new expressions of love, of creativity, vincularity, I hope that word exists, and prosperity in the intimacy of our lives and the collective, because this is how Aquarius works. Okay, it gets interesting, right? I said Mars hasn't really moved out of the opposition to Pluto. So if Venus is there now, it means Venus and Mars are having an opposition themselves. It is perfect on the 12th of December, but it's already there. So oppositions are seeking integration by walking into the middle point, right? So this is Venus and Mars. Pluto is implied, of course. It's a heightened creative sexual energy. There's a lot of passion, a lot of intensity that gives us a moment of beautiful, fertile creativity, I would say. Now, Mars is retro, right? So I wouldn't say it's the best moment for initiating stuff, but to actually go back to some creative project, to enlive, something that we left, or rekindle love or passion in some space in our lives or relationships. I mean, the sun is still there in Sagittarius, and the new adventure is calling. It's just not at full speed yet, right? We are within the cycle of this beautiful seed of faith from the beginning of the month, and we are entering the week of the month, of the lunar month, where we have this strong need to act and to move. I would say yes. Also, remember temperance that we've been invoking, so we can act with temperance towards what we hear is like really calling life into our hearts. So also Venus and Mars in this opposition, considering Pluto is there in the last week of Mercury retrograde, with Mars in this doubtful place at the moment, suggests to me a week where we're going to have a lot of conversations, exchanges that are seeking to conciliate, culminate some lingering conversation or subject. This could get a little heated. Yes, it could. It could get reactive as well. It is a tension after all, but it is a creative tension. So let us not forget that the lower expression of Mars and Pluto can be violent. The higher expression, though, it's an alignment of personal will with divine will that brings forward spiritual power that is in service to the good of all. Okay. The 12th of December, it's actually in Mexico, the day we celebrate Mother Tonantzin, Madre Maria Guadalupe, and we offer devotion to this aspect of feminine energy, Mother Earth, with gratitude. The next day, it's Friday the 13th, which also connects us with sacred feminine energy. I'm proposing that from this impulse we can actually hold loving and compassionate space from this feminine energy for the warrior, Mars, to have this experience of recalibrating his own energy towards a restoration of balance. I think at the moment what we are doing is an integration of both of our hemispheres, and our way of knowing, understanding, and creating by merging logic and intuitive knowing. Okay, so Friday we have an aspect of Mercury sextiling Venus. I think this is just adding up to the clarity that we are going to be building into. It's insights, it's information, that it's also completing the process of cleansing our perception with Mercury. And then Venus there in Aquarius, she's like she has a very prophetic energy. It's oracular and visionary, and she's not strained by conventional forms. Okay, so this to get to Sunday the 15th, where we have the full moon in Gemini at 23 degrees of this school of the message. We're going to have the sun in Sagittarius in front of the moon, and they're both squaring Neptune. Again with Neptune, bringing this spiritual strength to our minds. This is an axis of thought, inviting us to remember there are other ways to access wisdom and knowledge, maybe through the dream world, through intuition, through the hunch, through the gut, through the memory of our souls, and also through all the information that is stored in our biology, I would say. So as any full moon, it is a harvest, a culmination, an illumination of an emotional process and manifestation. I think it's nice to remember when this seed was planted, and this was last June 2024. We had a lot of Gemini energy there. It was talking or inviting us into new narratives, new stories, widening our perspective, opening our minds, expanding the dream. And the risk of this energy was to be extremely scattered. It is the same right now. And the blessing, though, it's the freeing ourselves from belief systems that encarcelate the true potential power of creation within our minds and our journeys. So this might be the harvest. It's just with Neptune there. I think it's an invitation to cultivate and remember that we are, how can I say this? We navigate, we sail between realms, between worlds. We ought to remember we are in a temporary template within infinity. Okay, there are worlds, realities, and dimensions by thousands or millions. There is magic. Magic is reality, and this will bring us, serendipity, synchronicities, awakenings, and also, as always, with a planet, especially a very censored planet like Neptune, we ought to be aware of its shadow, of course, our escapism, our flight response, fantasy, addictions. The thing is, you see, Neptune has been a forbidden world. And because of this, let me rephrase this. Neptune is a forbidden world because through him we access the truth, we remember our spiritual essence. Okay, if we truly remember who we are, then we are not so manipulable. That word exists? I hope so. I think you understand me. So usually we enter the Neptune realms through illegality or illegal ways, and thus we enter through the shadow. But this is not the only way to enter this dimension of spirituality, and through substances or even medicines. To a personal note, I actually think we are coming out of this era, opening ourselves into mystic navigation through the portal that we are. Our hearts are, our mastery of our own frequency. And the more we open our perceptions, our subtle perceptions, our spiritual powers, actually the more embodied, grounded we need to be. so we can live through it with beauty and balance and truly become the bridges between earth and sky, the invisible and the visible. And so the level of responsibility this like new wave of spiritual awakening requires is enormous. It's absolute, and therefore Saturn, whom is also part of this configuration, and he has been preparing us, maturing us into this. And this is going to become extremely important as well next year when we have eclipses in Virgo Pisces axis. Okay, so this full moon is also conjunct Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, so amplifying everything. I think like it usually happens with Gemini energy, we're going to find ourselves in a crossroad of sorts, having to choose between options. It is a lover's tarot card that also invites us to choose. And I think at that point we are actually choosing what story we want to tell ourselves and tell the world, what story we want to live in, what mindset, what message, what community, what vision, what are we aligning our energy with. And if we are not choosing, we are also choosing, Okay, the thing is, it's a bit of a noisy, it's a beautiful full moon and it's also kind of noisy. So it presents us with these distractions, because what would happen if we would actually become truly aware of the beauty of how powerful we can be in terms of the storytellers? That's what I want to say. No, we wouldn't believe all the tales that we are being told, because we would own the story. You get me? So I think that can be the power of this as well. It's noisy. So we have to make enough silence so we can hear the whispers of love, of the love story that wants to be told and lived through us. The ruler of this full moon is Mercury, and he is stationing direct on the exact same day, 15th. It's a beauty. Let's just be patient for another couple days, because precisely that day it might get a little loud, a little like we might feel a little overwhelmed by the energy. Then there's Mars retrograde, so we can't really move that fast. So I would insist, let's just slow down. Let's slow down so we don't become too overwhelmed. Let's also just play with all of this creative energy. I mean, it's raining, pouring from the sky. Let us write or sing. I would actually choose for that full moon to go to a singing circle or a kirtan or something, so we can commune with the sacredness of sound, of word turned into art, of the vibration in our bodies and the world. And only by saying this, I imagine perhaps you can sense the importance of choosing carefully what frequencies we are attuning ourselves with. Okay, a little long, but this is the message for this Sunday. Okay, this is for my Spanish community. Let me jump into the end. Right, so yeah, family, I think that's what I have. Quick note, 2025 seems pretty wild. And I mean this in the best of senses, like it's a non-domesticated energy. So let us just be excited and find ways of working through it together, so we can accompany each other to navigate and also to enjoy the ride. I'll be here soon with more information. Thank you for tuning in. Blessings.